They thought it was just another take until the blast turned fiction into reality. Tonight, we uncover 15 Hollywood legends whose final moments happened not in front of a green screen, but amid real fire and chaos. What began as movie magic ended as one of cinema's darkest nightmares. Number 1. Brandon Lee. In March of 1993, on the set of the film The Crow Times in Wilmington, North Carolina, a single moment turned cinematic illusion into tragedy. The scene called for a gunshot, a simple take that had been rehearsed many times. The prop weapon was checked, cleared, and declared safe. Under the dim light of a warehouse set, Brandon stepped into position, unaware that something hidden inside the gun would change everything. When the director called action, the flash erupted, the sound echoed too loud, and Brandon fell to the floor. At first, the crew clapped, thinking the shot looked real. Then silence spread as they realized it was. He was rushed to the hospital, where doctors fought for hours, but there was nothing they could do. At just 28 years old, the son of martial arts legend Bruce Lee lost his life in a way no one could have imagined. Later reports revealed a small fragment from a dummy round had remained lodged in the gun's barrel. When the blank cartridge was fired, that fragment acted like a real bullet. One overlooked step, one unchecked detail, and an entire film world shattered. Before that day, Brandon was on the edge of superstardom. The Crow Times was his defining project, his chance to prove he could stand on his own. Those who worked with him spoke of his kindness, his discipline, and the quiet strength he carried from his father's legacy. He trained relentlessly, performing most of his own stunts, bringing emotional depth and physical precision to every scene. Production stopped immediately. The cast and crew were devastated, unsure whether to finish the film. After months of debate, the studio chose to complete it, using body doubles and early digital effects. When The Crow Times finally premiered in 1994, it felt more like a farewell than a debut. The audience wept, critics praised his haunting performance, and Brandon became immortalized as both an artist and a warning. His passing forever changed Hollywood's approach to on-set safety. The industry restructured its weapon protocols and enforced stricter checks to ensure such an event would never repeat. Today, Brandon Lee's story stands as a solemn reminder that behind the glamour of filmmaking lies real risk, and that even one small mistake can echo through generations. Number 2. Vic Morrow. In July of 1982, during the filming of Time's Twilight Zone, the movie Times in Los Angeles, a nighttime battle sequence turned into one of the darkest moments in Hollywood history. The scene involved explosions, helicopters, and a flood of special effects meant to recreate the chaos of war. Vic Morrow, a respected actor known for his intensity and professionalism, stood in a shallow river holding 2 child actors as pyrotechnics ignited around them. The director called for more explosions. The rotor blades thundered above, and in a flash, everything went wrong. A series of fireballs erupted too close to the helicopter. The aircraft lost control, its rotor struck the tail, and within seconds, it spun downward toward the actors below. The noise drowned out the screams, and the set descended into confusion. Emergency teams rushed in, but the devastation was immediate. The crew stood frozen, unable to comprehend that a moment designed for spectacle had become something real and irreversible. The investigation that followed revealed a complex web of mistakes and negligence. Pyrotechnic charges had been placed too close to the helicopter, violating safety distances. The pilot had been flying lower than approved, and the production had continued shooting even after warnings from crew members about unsafe conditions. The aftermath shook Hollywood to its core. Vic Morrow, who had spent decades building a respected career in television and film, was gone at 53. Before that night, Morrow had been best known for his role in the series Times Combat, and for his gritty performances that often portrayed the cost of war and heroism. Ironically, it was another war scene that ended his life. The tragedy raised critical questions about the boundaries between realism and recklessness in filmmaking. It also exposed the dangers of pushing for more dramatic effects without fully accounting for safety. In the years that followed, new safety regulations were introduced across the industry. Stunt coordinators, pyrotechnic teams, and directors faced stricter oversight, and studios began demanding certified safety officers on every effects-heavy production. The event marked a turning point, reminding everyone that even experienced professionals are not immune to risk. Vic Morrow's name became a permanent entry in Hollywood's collective memory, a symbol of how a moment of cinematic ambition can turn to horror when caution fades. His story continues to echo through every explosion filmed since, urging the industry to remember the price of neglect. Number 3. Martha Mansfield. In November of 1923, on the set of the silent film Times, The Warrens of Virginia Times in San Antonio, Texas, a routine break between scenes became one of the earliest tragedies in motion picture history. The cast had just finished filming an outdoor sequence set during the Civil War. Martha Mansfield, dressed in an elaborate costume made of light fabric and lace, stepped away from the camera to rest near a car parked on the side of the set. Inside, someone lit a cigarette, and within moments, a stray ember caught the hem of her dress. The flames spread instantly. The costume, treated with chemicals to keep it stiff and bright under lighting, turned into fuel. Witnesses later described how the fabric seemed to vanish in seconds. Her co-star, Wilfrid Lytell, threw his coat around her, and another crew member used a blanket to smother the fire. But the burns were already severe. Martha was rushed to a nearby hospital, where doctors did everything they could, yet the injuries proved too extensive. She passed away the following day, only 24 years old. The news shocked Hollywood. Martha was considered one of the most promising young actresses of her time, admired for her expressive eyes and her ability to bring depth to silent performances. Just months earlier, she had been praised for her role alongside John Barrymore in Time's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde **. Producers had high hopes for her career, and audiences adored her charm and grace. Her untimely death exposed how little safety existed on film sets in the early 20th century. Costumes were often made from flammable materials, and sets were crowded with open flames used for lighting. After the accident, several studios began implementing new rules to reduce fire hazards, requiring flame-retardant fabrics and safer lighting methods. The tragedy became a lesson written into the foundations of Hollywood's evolving safety standards. Martha's final film was completed without her, and when it was released, audiences watched in silence, knowing what had happened behind the scenes. Critics mourned the loss of a rising star, whose career had barely begun. Her name remains a reminder of how fragile fame could be in the early days of cinema, when beauty, ambition, and danger often shared the same spotlight. Number 4. Kate Lester. In October of 1924, inside her dressing room at Universal Studios in Hollywood, a sudden explosion shattered the calm of the afternoon. Kate Lester, a respected actress of stage and silent film, was preparing for her next scene. The studio was filled with the smell of fresh paint and chemicals, common in the early days of film production when ventilation was poor and safety standards were minimal. A gas heater sat in the corner of her room, keeping the space warm while she reviewed her lines. Without warning, the heater malfunctioned, igniting fumes that had built up from nearby flammable materials. The blast tore through the small room, and smoke quickly filled the hallway. Studio workers rushed to help, breaking down the door as flames licked across the walls. Kate was pulled out unconscious, badly burned but still alive. She was taken to the Hollywood hospital, where doctors fought through the night to save her. The injuries were too severe, and she passed away before dawn, at the age of 53. Her death sent shockwaves through the film community. Kate Lester had been a well-known character actress, appearing in dozens of silent features and known for her roles as elegant society women and dignified mothers. She had worked alongside stars like John Gilbert and Lon Chaney, earning a reputation for grace and professionalism. Colleagues remembered her as quiet, disciplined, and deeply devoted to her craft. In the aftermath, investigators discovered that a faulty connection in the heater had caused the explosion. The accident exposed how carelessly many studios managed gas lines and heating systems. At the time, most sets were temporary structures built from wood and canvas, filled with open flames, paints, and solvents. The tragedy forced studio executives to reconsider safety protocols, especially in dressing rooms and makeup areas where gas heaters were common. Kate's funeral was attended by many of the era's biggest stars. Silent film magazines published tributes, describing her as one of the industry's true ladies, someone who had given her life to the art of performance. Her passing marked one of the earliest documented studio accidents linked to an explosion, and it served as a warning for years to come. Even now, her story remains a symbol of how fragile life could be behind Hollywood's glittering facade. Number 5. Art Scholl. In September of 1985, high above the California desert, the skies that had always been his home became the scene of a fatal accident. Art Scholl, one of Hollywood's most skilled stunt pilots, was filming aerial footage for the movie Time's Top Gun **. The job required precision, speed, and absolute trust in the machine. He had performed thousands of flight stunts before, capturing breathtaking shots for films and documentaries. That day, the production team wanted a dramatic spin maneuver over the Pacific Ocean to simulate a combat sequence. Art, confident and calm, took off in his modified Pitts S2 camera plane, equipped with special mounts to capture the scene. As the cameras rolled, he began the complex dive, a maneuver he had mastered countless times. Witnesses on the ground watched as the plane spun gracefully at first, then suddenly dipped too sharply. His voice came over the radio, calm but urgent. "I have a problem," he said, followed by a chilling final message. "I can't recover." Seconds later, the aircraft vanished into the ocean. Search teams scoured the area for days, but neither the wreckage nor Art's body was ever found. The tragedy stunned both the aviation and film communities. Art Scholl was not just a pilot. He was a legend in aerial cinematography, known for his daring yet disciplined flying. He had worked on dozens of major productions, including Time's The Right Stuff **, Iron Eagle **, and Time's Blue Thunder **. His ability to perform complex stunts while operating cameras made him invaluable to filmmakers who wanted authenticity in the skies. Colleagues often said that when Art was flying, the impossible became possible. Investigators later suggested that the added weight of the camera equipment might have altered the plane's balance, making recovery from the spin impossible. The accident led to stricter safety regulations for aerial filming, requiring more detailed testing of equipment loads and emergency procedures before any stunt could begin. Art's final footage was never recovered, but his legacy remained embedded in every breathtaking flight scene that came after. The producers of Time's Top Gun dedicated the movie to his memory, a gesture that reminded audiences of the real risks behind cinematic spectacle. For those who knew him, Art Scholl's name became synonymous with passion, skill, and the high price of pursuing perfection above the clouds. Number 6. Paul Mantz. In July of 1965, during the filming of Time's The Flight of the Phoenix in the Arizona desert, one of Hollywood's most respected stunt pilots took off for what was supposed to be a routine scene. The production needed a shot of a plane making a dangerous belly landing on rough terrain. Paul Mantz, a veteran aviator with decades of experience, had already performed countless aerial stunts for classic films such as Time's The Wings of Eagles and Time's 12 O'Clock High **. On that day, the heat shimmered off the desert floor as he climbed into the cockpit of a specially modified P-1 Mustang, a lightweight craft built for the sequence. As the cameras rolled, Mantz guided the plane low across the sand, just as the director had envisioned. The scene required him to skim the surface, hit a small ridge, and slide to a stop in front of the cameras. Everything went according to plan until the aircraft's nose struck an unseen dip in the ground. The sudden impact snapped the fuselage, sending the plane tumbling forward. The crew watched in shock as the aircraft broke apart in a cloud of dust and debris. The emergency team raced toward the wreck, but the damage was catastrophic. Paul Mantz was 62 years old, a legend who had logged over 25,000 flight hours and had worked on some of the most iconic aerial films in history. His career had begun in the early days of aviation, when daredevil pilots performed for crowds at air shows. Over time, he became Hollywood's go-to expert for flight sequences, combining precision, creativity, and fearlessness. He was known for saying that in his line of work, there was no such thing as a second take. The investigation determined that the weight of the aircraft had been underestimated. The plane was carrying additional fuel for safety, which altered its balance during the low-level maneuver. The lesson from that day changed how aerial stunts were planned, requiring more rigorous testing and clearer safety parameters for pilots and ground crews. When Times, The Flight of the Phoenix Times, was finally released later that year, the film was dedicated to his memory. The breathtaking scenes he filmed before the crash remained in the final cut. For audiences, it was a powerful reminder that behind every moment of cinematic triumph, there are real people who risk everything to make the impossible look real. Number 7. John Eric Hexum. In October of 1984, on the set of the television series Times Cover-Up Times in Los Angeles, a moment of carelessness changed everything. The day had been long, and the cast was waiting between takes while lighting adjustments were made. John Eric Hexum, a 26-year-old actor known for his charm and rising fame, grew impatient during the delay. To pass the time, he picked up a prop revolver loaded with blank cartridges, the same weapon that would be used in an upcoming scene. He jokingly raised it to his head and pulled the trigger, expecting only the loud noise of the blank firing. The force from the explosion, though not meant to fire a bullet, released a powerful gas pressure at close range. That pressure fractured his skull and caused severe injury. The crew rushed to his aid, calling for paramedics who arrived within minutes. He was transported to a nearby hospital where doctors operated through the night, but his condition did not improve. After 6 days on life support, he was pronounced gone. John Eric had been on the verge of becoming one of television's next leading men. He had starred in Time's Voyagers, Asterisk, and was known for his athletic build and natural humor that made him a favorite among fans. His role in Time's Cover-Up Times was meant to launch him into mainstream stardom. Those who worked with him described him as lighthearted, full of energy, and always joking between takes. The accident left everyone stunned, unable to understand how something that seemed harmless could turn so devastating. The investigation later confirmed that blank cartridges, though they contain no bullet, still produce explosive gas and debris powerful enough to cause fatal injuries if discharged at close range. The entertainment industry had long underestimated this risk, often treating blanks as completely safe. After the tragedy, new safety measures were introduced, banning anyone from pointing prop firearms directly at themselves or others, even when unloaded. John Eric's final episode was completed using existing footage, and the series continued briefly before ending. His death served as a painful reminder that even simulated weapons can be deadly when handled carelessly. In the years that followed, his name became a cautionary example for actors and filmmakers, ensuring that future productions treated every prop firearm with the same respect as a real one. Number 8. Roy Kinnear. In September of 1988, on location in Madrid, Spain, the set of Times The Return of the Musketeers Times became the site of an accident that stunned the entire cast and crew. The film was a sequel to the popular swashbuckling adventures of Times The Three Musketeers Asterisk, and the day's shoot involved a scene of frantic horseback riding through cobblestone streets. Roy Kinnear, a seasoned British character actor known for his warmth and comedic touch, was performing the sequence when his horse slipped on the uneven stones. He was thrown violently from the saddle, landing hard against the pavement. The fall caused severe internal injuries. Crew members rushed to him immediately, and within minutes, he was taken to a nearby hospital. Despite emergency surgery, his condition deteriorated rapidly. The following day, he passed away at the age of 54, far from home and surrounded by his devastated colleagues. Roy Kinnear had built a long and beloved career across film, television, and stage. Audiences knew him for his roles in Time's Willy Wonka and The Chocolate Factory Asterisk, Asterisk Help, Asterisk, and Time's A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum Asterisk. He was admired not only for his talent, but for his generous spirit and ability to make everyone on set feel at ease. Director Richard Lester, who had worked with him on several films, described him as irreplaceable. After the tragedy, production shut down immediately. The cast was emotionally shattered, and Lester was so affected that he later decided never to direct another feature film. The accident drew attention to the lack of medical readiness on foreign sets and the risks of shooting complex stunts without proper safety conditions. It also prompted European studios to strengthen their on-set safety rules, requiring better coordination between directors, stunt coordinators, and medical teams. Roy's death highlighted how even experienced professionals could be vulnerable when physical action scenes combined with unpredictable conditions. Though not caused by pyrotechnics, the tragedy was often mentioned alongside other on-set accidents because it reflected the same imbalance between ambition and safety that haunted Hollywood for decades. When The Return of the Musketeers Times was eventually released, the film was dedicated to his memory. His final performance carried a bittersweet weight, a reminder of the risks artists face in bringing adventure to life and how one misstep can end a lifetime devoted to storytelling. Number 9. Bruce Lee. In July of 1973, inside a small apartment in Kowloon, Hong Kong, the man who had become an international symbol of martial arts and Hollywood charisma collapsed unexpectedly. He had been meeting with producers to finalize details for his next film, Game of Death, a project that promised to blend philosophy, action, and artistry in ways cinema had never seen. During the afternoon, Bruce complained of a severe headache and decided to rest. Hours later, when his associates tried to wake him, he was unresponsive. Despite immediate medical attention, he was pronounced gone that evening at the age of 32. The news spread across the world within hours. Fans who had watched him rise from television star to global icon refused to believe it. Only weeks earlier, he had completed Enter the Dragon, the film that would make him immortal. The timing felt impossible, the shock unbearable. Investigations later revealed that he had suffered a reaction to medication he had taken for pain relief. Although not related to a stunt or explosion, his sudden passing became forever linked to the dangers and pressures surrounding physical performance in film. Bruce Lee had lived a life defined by discipline, intellect, and relentless pursuit of perfection. His training routines were legendary. He treated his body like a finely tuned instrument, constantly experimenting with new methods to combine strength, speed, and philosophy. He was not just an action star. He was a thinker who sought to redefine what it meant to be powerful on screen. His influence crossed borders, inspiring generations of martial artists and actors who saw him as proof that Eastern talent could conquer Western cinema. After his death, Enter the Dragon was released worldwide and became a cultural phenomenon. It introduced his vision to millions and cemented his place as one of the most influential figures in entertainment history. The loss also pushed Hollywood to recognize the physical and emotional toll demanded of its action performers. More attention began to be paid to the balance between pushing human limits and preserving safety on set. Bruce Lee's story endures as a symbol of energy, wisdom, and mystery. Even decades later, his name carries a sense of awe. He embodied both the strength and fragility of human ambition, a man who burned brighter than anyone could have imagined, and whose legacy still fuels the fire of modern cinema. Number 10. Paul Walker. In November of 2013, during a charity event in Santa Clarita, California, the life of one of Hollywood's most beloved action stars was cut short. The afternoon had been filled with fans, friends, and cars from his foundation's fundraiser. Paul Walker, best known for his role as Brian O'Connor in the Times Fast and Furious series, stepped into a red Porsche Carrera GT driven by his friend and business partner Roger Rodas. They planned only a short drive around the block before returning to greet more guests. Minutes later, the sound of screeching tires broke the calm. The car lost control on a curve, striking a lamppost and bursting into flames. Witnesses rushed to the scene, but the fire spread too quickly. Emergency responders arrived within minutes, yet there was nothing more they could do. The suddenness of it stunned the world. Paul was only 40 years old and had been in the middle of filming Furious 7 *, the franchise that had made him a global name. Paul Walker's rise to fame had been steady rather than sudden. Before his breakthrough in The Fast and the Furious in 2001, He had been a child actor, appearing in commercials and small television roles. His charm came from a natural warmth that made audiences feel like they knew him personally. Off-screen, he was known for his humility, his passion for cars, and his deep involvement in humanitarian work. He founded Reach Out Worldwide, an organization dedicated to disaster relief, and was admired for helping quietly, without seeking publicity. After his passing, Universal Studios faced the difficult question of whether to complete Time's Furious 7 *. Production paused while the cast and crew mourned. Eventually, with the help of his brothers and advanced digital technology, the film was finished. When it was released in 2015, the final scene showing Brian driving into the sunset became one of the most emotional moments in movie history. The tragedy served as a wake-up call about the risks of high-speed vehicles and the culture of thrill that Hollywood often celebrates. Fans around the world lit candles, shared stories, and revisited his films not as simple entertainment, but as pieces of his legacy. Paul Walker remains remembered not just as an actor, but as a symbol of kindness, generosity, and quiet strength in a world driven by speed and fame. Number 11. Steve Irwin. In September of 2006, off the coast of Queensland, Australia, the world lost one of its most energetic and passionate wildlife figures during the filming of an underwater documentary titled Time's Ocean's Deadliest *. The day began like so many others for him, surrounded by cameras, crew members, and the boundless excitement that came with exploring nature up close. The weather was calm, and the ocean shimmered beneath the sunlight as he and his team dived near the Great Barrier Reef to capture footage of marine life. While filming in shallow waters, Steve approached a large stingray to record a close-up shot for an educational segment. The animal, startled by the camera's shadow, reacted instinctively, lashing upward with its tail. The barb pierced his chest, and though the crew pulled him to the boat within seconds, it was already too late. He was 44 years old, at the height of his influence, and his passing sent shockwaves across the globe. Steve Irwin had spent his life teaching the world to respect and protect wildlife. Born into a family of animal caretakers, he grew up surrounded by reptiles and wilderness. His boundless enthusiasm, khaki outfit, and signature phrase made him an international icon through his television series Time's The Crocodile Hunter *. To millions of viewers, he was not just a showman but a teacher who made the natural world feel alive and accessible. Children learned to see snakes, crocodiles, and spiders not as monsters, but as vital parts of the Earth's delicate balance. After the tragedy, tributes poured in from every corner of the world. Governments, conservationists, and fans mourned not just the man, but the mission he represented. His wife, Terry, and their children, Bindi and Robert, vowed to continue his legacy through the Australia Zoo and global conservation projects. The incident led to greater awareness about safety in wildlife documentaries, emphasizing respect for unpredictable animal behavior even among experts. Yet no rule or warning could diminish the courage and love that had driven Steve's career. His death was not the result of recklessness, but of devotion to a world he sought to protect. Today, his name remains synonymous with passion, education, and a deep reverence for life in all its forms, wild and free. Number 12. John Ritter. In September of 2003, on the set of the television series Time's 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter *, the cast and crew were preparing for another day of filming. John Ritter, known for his warmth and impeccable comedic timing, had just finished rehearsing a scene when he suddenly complained of discomfort. At first, everyone thought it was exhaustion from a long day under bright studio lights. Moments later, he collapsed. The crew called for paramedics, who arrived quickly and transported him to Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, located just across the street from the studio. Doctors worked tirelessly to determine what had gone wrong. Within hours, they discovered that John had suffered a tear in his aorta, a rare and unexpected medical emergency. Despite their efforts, he passed away that evening, on September 11th, 2003, the day before his 55th birthday. News of his death spread instantly across Hollywood. stunning fans who had grown up watching his iconic performances on television and film. John Ritter had been one of the most beloved faces in American entertainment. His role as Jack Tripper in Time's Three's Company Times had made him a household name, earning him both Emmy and Golden Globe awards. His ability to balance humor with sincerity made every performance memorable. Off-camera, he was known as generous, humble, and deeply kind to everyone on set, from producers to stagehands. After his passing, filming for Time's 8 Simple Rules Times was halted. The production team and his co-stars, including Katie Sagal and Kaylee Cuoco, were heartbroken. The show later returned with a tribute episode written to honor his memory, a moment that moved millions of viewers who had come to see John not just as a performer, but as family. His sudden death brought attention to aortic dissection, a condition that few people knew about at the time. Medical organizations began campaigns to raise awareness and improve early detection, leading to new protocols in hospitals across the country. In the years that followed, his wife, actress Amy Yazbek, established a foundation in his name to promote research and education about the condition. John Ritter's final day on set became a lasting reminder of how quickly life can change. His laughter still echoes through reruns and memories, a legacy built on kindness, humor, and the simple joy of making people smile. Number 13. Heath Ledger. In January of 2008, inside his apartment in the Soho district of New York City, the film world lost one of its most gifted young actors. The day began quietly, with Heath preparing for upcoming promotional work after months of intense filming. He had recently completed his role as the Joker in Time's The Dark Knight Asterisk, a performance so consuming that it had left him emotionally and physically drained. Later that afternoon, when his housekeeper entered his room, she found him unresponsive. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but it was too late. He was 28 years old. The news broke across every major network within hours, leaving audiences and fellow actors stunned. Heath Ledger had become a symbol of artistic dedication, an actor who immersed himself completely in every role. His portrayal of Ennis Del Mar in Time's Brokeback Mountain Times had already earned him an Academy Award nomination, and his performance as the Joker was being hailed by insiders as revolutionary even before the film's release. His ability to disappear into his characters, transforming his voice, posture, and presence, made him one of the most respected performers of his generation. The investigation into his passing revealed that the cause was an accidental overdose of prescription medication. He had been struggling with exhaustion and insomnia, a combination common among actors working under relentless schedules. Those close to him described long nights of restlessness and a growing sense of isolation despite his success. His family emphasized that there had been no signs of despair, only fatigue and the toll of constant creative pressure. When Time's The Dark Knight Times premiered in July of 2008, audiences watched his final performance in awe. His interpretation of the Joker was haunting, unpredictable, and mesmerizing. It earned him a posthumous Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, making him one of the few in history to receive such an honor after death. The acceptance speech, delivered by his family, brought an entire audience to tears. Heath Ledger's passing reshaped how Hollywood approached mental and physical well-being in its performers. Studios began offering more support for cast members under high stress, and conversations about rest and balance became part of the industry's safety culture. His story remains one of brilliance shadowed by exhaustion, a reminder that behind every perfect performance stands a human being, fragile yet endlessly driven to create. Number 14. Brandon DeWilde. In July of 1972, on a highway near Denver, Colorado, the life of one of Hollywood's most promising actors came to a sudden end. That evening, Brandon was driving home after a rehearsal for a stage production in which he had been performing. The road was dark, and visibility was low as he steered his camper van along the stretch of asphalt that led to his home. Without warning, another vehicle attempted to turn across his lane. The collision was violent, sending his van spinning before it overturned. Emergency crews arrived quickly, but his injuries were severe. He was pronounced gone shortly after reaching the hospital. He was only 30 years old. Brandon DeWilde had been acting since childhood, achieving fame at an age when most children were still in school. At 11, he delivered a performance in Shane Times that would define his career and earn him an Academy Award nomination. His soft-spoken plea, "Come back, Shane," became one of the most memorable lines in film history. Audiences adored him, critics praised his natural talent, and directors sought him out for his emotional authenticity. As he grew older, Brandon transitioned from child roles to complex adult characters, appearing in films such as Times, Hud Times, and Times All Fall Down **. He worked alongside Paul Newman and Melvyn Douglas, proving that he could hold his own among Hollywood's finest. Yet despite his success, he remained humble and somewhat withdrawn, preferring quiet nights with music and books to glamorous events. Those close to him described him as thoughtful, artistic, and deeply sensitive. The accident that ended his life occurred during a period when his career was beginning to resurge. He had moved towards stage work, seeking more creative control and a deeper connection to storytelling. His performance in Times Butterflies Are Free Times had earned strong reviews, and he was preparing to expand his stage presence even further. His sudden passing not only stunned audiences but also left directors and fellow actors mourning the loss of a talent that had matured far beyond his years. In the decades since, Brandon de Wilde's legacy has endured as a symbol of early brilliance and quiet grace. His short life remains a reminder of the fleeting nature of fame and the unpredictability of destiny, especially for those who rise so quickly and shine so brightly before the curtain falls. Number 15. John Candy. In March of 1994, in Durango, Mexico, the laughter that had filled movie theaters for decades went silent. John Candy was in the middle of filming the Western comedy Times Wagons East **, a project that had demanded long days under intense heat. That evening, after completing his final scene, he returned to his hotel room to rest. Crew members later found him unresponsive in bed. Medical personnel arrived quickly, but there was nothing they could do. He was 43 years old, and the world lost one of its most beloved comedic actors. John Candy's journey to fame began in Canada, where his natural humor and warmth made him a standout on the sketch series Times SCTV**. From there, he became one of the defining faces of '80s comedy, starring in classics such as Times, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles**, Uncle Buck**, and Times, Cool Runnings**. Audiences loved him not only for his timing but for his heart. He had a rare ability to turn even the silliest characters into people you cared about. Behind the laughter, however, was a man who worked tirelessly, often pushing himself beyond exhaustion to deliver his best on screen. On the set of Times Wagons East **, John had been under heavy stress from the physical demands of the shoot. Friends recalled that he spoke often about slowing down, spending more time with his family, and taking better care of himself. When news of his passing reached Hollywood, tributes poured in from every corner of the entertainment world. Directors, co-stars, and fans alike described him as generous, kind, and endlessly giving both in life and in his art. The film was completed using doubles and existing footage, and when it premiered later that year, it was dedicated to his memory. While it was not his greatest work, audiences watched it with heavy hearts, knowing it contained his final moments on screen. His legacy continued through his unforgettable performances, which blended humor, empathy, and humanity in a way few actors have ever matched. John Candy's story remains a reminder that even those who make the world laugh carry their own struggles behind the curtain. His warmth endures in every smile he created, every tear his comedy turned into joy. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more. See you in the next video.